Recently, the long-awaited Avalanche project Hogwarts Legacy was delayed to 2022. After nearly a decade of the Harry Potter brand being left to collect dust in the realm of gaming, it was understandable that this news came as a disaster to most. Although after Cyberpunk 2077's release, maybe letting studios finish their games might be a good idea. So with the delay, I figured now would be a perfect time to have a look at what we know as of right now about this Wizarding World revival. After years of rumours, leaks and speculation, Legacy was finally announced back in September of 2020, with the release window set at some point presumably in late 2021, as Warner Brothers clearly wanted to capitalise on the cross-generation hype around the games industry. Of course, like I said, in mid-January this year, the game was delayed to 2022. However, we can still assume that it will be available on both the Xbox Series X and PS5, along with the Xbox One and PS4. But again, thinking of Cyberpunk, hearing about any cross-generation project fills me with a little bit of fear. Considering Warner Bros. Interactive have a fairly stacked set of titles set to launch at the end of 2021, with Gotham Knights and LEGO Star Wars The Skywalker Saga, along with the end of 2022 seeing their first next-gen exclusive title with Suicide Squad, I'd say it's fair to assume that despite the delay, we'll still see Hogwarts Legacy released decently early in 2022, as I imagine they want to get the project out as their final cross-gen game. This means that we'll more than likely see some form of gameplay at either E3 in June or at the very latest at Gamescom in August. Regardless of when Hogwarts Legacy will release though, what we do know is when it's set. Finally, we have a chance to see this universe outside of the 20th century, as we'll be taken back to the late 1800s to experience Hogwarts like we never have before. And luckily, this will be after the invention of modern plumbing, meaning we won't have a minigame involving any turd apparition. I still can't quite believe that J.K. Rowling actually said that. Speaking of J.K. Rowling, it was confirmed very early on that the author of the original series will have no influence or attachment to the game. So if that was potentially going to put you off of the game after all of her controversies, you have nothing to worry about in regards to her involvement. In the game, you'll take up the shoes of a late teen who somehow received a late acceptance to Hogwarts, meaning despite you actually being in 5th year, you'll technically be in 1st year. Although this is a little annoying as someone who wants the full-on Hogwarts experience, I understand why Avalanche made this decision, as they probably figured most people don't want to play as an 11-year-old, but still want the chance to experience all the wonder of entering Diagon Alley for the first time, buying your first wand and getting sorted into your house. Now that I mention houses, Avalanche have also said that you'll be able to choose your house when you enter, but considering the promises of the game being an immersive RPG, I wouldn't be surprised if your actions and choices in the early parts of the game have an effect on where the sorting hat puts you. I think having the player be able to choose will be more of a second option, and that'd be such a perfect way to make the choices of the player matter, not to mention the replayability that such a system would allow for. Over the course of the game, which appears to take place over 1 year in Hogwarts, you'll see your character grow their skills and abilities, which from what we've heard seems like it will be done immersively through actual classes in the school as opposed to basic skill trees. Supposedly, we'll also be able to choose companions to help us throughout our journey, whether it's friends throughout Hogwarts or potentially even pets. Of course, to no one's surprise, the whole of Hogwarts and its iconic locations will be fully explorable, with the Forbidden Forest, Hogsmeade, and even various tunnels, passages and tombs around the grounds that we've never had a chance to see before, which will hopefully act as a precursor of sorts to the Marauders map. And finally, that brings us to Reddit, something that I hoped I would never have to say on this channel. But the fact of the matter is, reddit.com just so happens to be stuffed to the brim with leaks and rumours, and back in December 2020, one about Hogwarts Legacy really picked up traction, claiming that the game would be like Bully, but with magic. Now, the post begins with the user JJHopes88 saying that his cousin's friend is an engineer over at Avalanche, which is the equivalent of telling your mates in school that your uncle works at Nintendo. So I would take this with a massive jackfruit-sized grain of salt. Aside from the outdated release schedule, the post claims first that the game will have full character customization, which based on previous leaks isn't all too groundbreaking. It goes on to say that there will be true next-gen destruction technology with magic-related lore to explain how areas are repaired. Again, not too groundbreaking. But after this, we get a bunch of stuff that, although on the surface sounds pretty predictable, also sounds brilliant. From classes with minigames to improve your stats, to a full house system with dynamic house points awarded and taken away, even a raid system and the ability to tame and ride animals. Story-wise, the leak claims that the narrative will be fairly dark, starting off with the wonderful atmospheres of the early Harry Potter books before slowly transitioning into a darker story akin to the likes of the Deathly Hallows. Along with that, it'll also supposedly supposedly interweave with the Fantastic Beasts franchise, which makes sense considering the period, and most importantly, the game will have an appearance from young Dumbledore. Considering Dumbledore died in 1997 and was canonically 115 years old, this places the game at the perfect point where we could see the legendary headmaster when he was still a student at Hogwarts, meaning he could potentially become a genuine friend and ally to our character and have a vital role to play in the story. All I'm saying is the timelines match up. Like I said, this leak needs to be taken with a massive grain of salt, and to be honest, a lot of the stuff mentioned is relatively vague and predictable, but if Hogwarts Legacy genuinely does live up to what this leak entails, I have no doubt that it'll be a genuine revival of the wizarding world in gaming, and will finally bring back this incredible universe to the medium we all love so much. So if you are hyped for Hogwarts Legacy, or if you enjoyed the video, make sure to hit like, it really does help me out a lot. Also, if you're new here and want to see more content like this, make sure to subscribe with post notifications turned on so you never miss a video. Also, feel free to check out the Nest Discord in the description, along with my Patreon if you want to support me continuing to be able to make these videos. With all that being said though, I've been Joe, aka Founder Scarab, and I'll see you in the next one.